Hello, welcome back to another Baseline General Assembly.
Yeah, thanks all for joining. These weeks fly by in between these sessions. Thanks for joining us live or tuning in later. We will go through our usual monthly General Assembly, where we will talk through outreach updates, core devs, the interop workgroup, standards, the TSC and roadmap items, and then we will also have an open floor. So to briefly kick us off, I'll get us started on one outreach update, and then I'll hand over to Mark Haddle, the TSC member and outreach chair. But one of our last blogs that came out, published by the TSC member, Stefan Kostic, was called Proving Secrets Without Exposing Them. And it's a nice, concise read about privacy, how zero knowledge proofs can be applied to current privacy problems, how the attributes of completeness, soundness, and zero knowledge fit together. It explains multi-party computation, and then also talks about the advancements, challenges, and future implications about ZK. So read it, share it, and let us know what you think about it. Alrighty, and Mark Haddle, I'll hand over to you for other outreach updates.
Good morning, everybody. Yes. Good morning, everybody. Yes. Interesting time. I mean, just in the world as it is, just so much going on, and particularly within the technology world, I'm seeing a lot of innovation that is coming to the forefront. It's not just vaporware, and it's not just ideas and dreams. You're actually seeing people build something that is going to actually have an impact. And a lot of this has been going on in the background for the past couple of years, kind of like generative AI, ChatGPT, and everybody is now saying this is a really cool thing, but how can we keep it how can we set it to where it doesn't get us in trouble? Because again, how do you source the data that you can make the decisions? Where's it all coming from? And is it yours? And do you have a are you allowed to use it? And the answer to all those questions is maybe, I don't know. And so that's one of the big things they need to start drilling down on. The big thing that I'm starting to see with zero knowledge almost addresses that, to where you can prove secrets without exposing them. And that happens in a lot of highly regulated industries, to where I need to have certainty that my counterparty is looking at the same data set that I am, but I cannot show or even take custody of the data object just to make sure that it is correct, or that it is concurrent with my counterparties. And then scale that out across, if you have 1,000 people, to sit there and actually look and take possession of or custody of, a data object that is unique to or specific to your relationship, and you don't want anybody else to see it. Let it stay in its existing system, and you have a proof, not just an assurance, and not just a promise that yes, it is matches, a proof. So you, again, certainty. And this is really getting a lot more traction there, and I'm starting to see kind of the people start to look at, I don't quite understand the concept a little bit. How can you prove something without showing it to me? And you'll have a lot of exercises. The most simple one that I've actually come across that has a lot of that people get is you can say, I've got my phone. I want to prove to you that I know my phone number. And I could say, Sonal, I know your phone number. And you're like, no, prove it. And so if I'll take out my phone, I'll call you. And if your phone rings, identifies me as the sender, I have proven to you that I know your phone number without exposing it. And that's something that people now kind of understand. I mean, I've run into so many problems where you start to use the example of the two red balls or Alibaba's cave. That just requires a lot of mental gymnastics that a lot of people don't really want to have to undertake. So that's really what we're seeing right now, especially in these highly regulated industries, where you don't necessarily have to share data objects. because you're not allowed to because of privacy compliance or just competitive position. So this is a way that you can actually do it. So a lot of people are getting a lot more, paying a lot more attention about it, and we want to get them more excited about it. And so that's why we're kicking off a demo environment where we want to show you what are the capabilities of baseline protocol and what it can do for what impact it can make within your business, your process environment, multi-party, and so forth. So that's really where we are right now as far as outreach.
Awesome. So I know the outreach team has had some meetings get canceled in the last few weeks due to holidays and things like that. But aside from some of the larger picture things you mentioned, are there some plans, or I mean, what are like the actionable things that we want to accomplish in the outreach team this year?
Well, the big thing we want to do is get the interoperability events. We want to have the roadshow. We want to be able to have these events to where we can actively showcase what are the capabilities of baseline protocol. And we've had a lot of movement within our BRI3, which is Baseline Reference Implementation 3, which is going to show you how you can have the interoperability between two or more parties and how you can actually maintain that and demonstrate how that process environment happens. So how is the zero knowledge proof generated? How is it shared and in what format? And how can you then on your counterparty side have that function as an acceptance of the, I guess, data concurrency? So I'm proving something to you, you have to accept it. And so we're looking at how can we go ahead and show how that mechanism works within an environment. Now we want to get a little bit more and get a little bit more fine-grained as far as where does this fit within the current IT architecture. And we have some ideas around there as where it's going to kind of sit in there to where it doesn't disrupt the furniture, but still maintains all of its functionality.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Yoav, if you want to tell us what's going on in the core dev world.
Yeah, can do. All right, so I guess I will start off just kind of showing a little bit about BRI3, giving some updates as well as just some general kind of information on the planning of it and how it's going and kind of what considerations are being made in order to kind of achieve this goal of creating this simple reference implementation that I'm sure everybody's heard, the definition of 100 times. But I will share my screen and we can kind of look at some stuff together. All right. So here sharing, this is the SRI use case walkthrough doc. So this was kind of, I think I talked about this on the last show as well, but the core purpose of this document is to kind of create an outline of what the architecture would look like for a use case, to sort of synchronize all of the devs working on the work group so that we're all kind of on the same page of what the implementation will be, sort of architecturally, so that when a full use case is decided, everybody will be able to kind of easily begin working on it because we'll have already synced on what that would look like. So this doc has been shown before. There's still some action items and discussion items being sort of reviewed and looked at. Just to kind of scroll through, you can see that there's quite a healthy amount of back and forth between the work group. So this is still a work in progress. However, it does seem that it's sort of moving along nicely. So taking a look out of this, we'll check out some PRs that have been closed since the last call that we had. The last GA, I should say. So there are kind of 4, I believe, 3 or 4 major PRs that are SRI related that have been merged into main, so fully kind of discussed, reviewed, updated, and committed to the main branch. So this one here, we have to remove the remaining storage mocks. And we can first look at the issue that this sort of solves. So here's the issue in GitHub, and that's kind of the format that we run. Is there are issues in GitHub that are then picked up by a developer or a group of developers, worked on, and then a PR will link to that issue so that anybody now or in the future can sort of follow along as to why that code was implemented and what sort of problem or feature it's introducing or solving. So this one is intended to create a way to mock the database. That way, all of the different storage agents for each individual function isn't needed to be written sort of one by one, which is just tedious. And because like he said here, Ogman said here, it's a boilerplate code. It's sort of an unnecessary function if possible to sort of implement away. So Skos has his PR here, which implements a couple libraries, I believe, that will allow for mocking the storage so that it no longer needs to be like handwritten each time in a storage mock. No sense in sort of looking at all the code, but that's kind of the purpose of this PR and its issue that it is closing. The next PR that was merged in this period of time is the part 2, Shree's part 2 of the ZK component implementation. So again, we can look at the issue related to this. And as written here, it is the Merkle proof wrapped in a ZK proof with content addressable hash as the public input. So just a very quick way to see what all of the code changes in here are intending to do if you don't want to kind of read through every line committed here line by line. We can look also at the conversation to see all of the discussion and the back and forth and the suggestions that are being made by the core dev team, the maintainers, in order to kind of get synergy and to be all aligned with what everybody wants the kind of repo to look like in a way that is structured and consistent. So this is part 2 of her, I think total is 3 parts of the implementation for the ZK circuit. Her third part is now, I believe, currently open in a PR. So this is generating the circuit, proving and verification keys, and adds a placeholder circuit. And this PR was opened, I believe, 2 weeks ago or so. And since then, there are some comments being left as well, just like all the other PRs that we've looked at being reviewed in case some of the code owners have any updates to be made or requested changes, she'll go ahead and discuss those and then implement what is agreed. Otherwise, it looks like there's one approval here and one comment by Andreas says looks good. So this should likely be merged pretty soon. He just has one kind of pending question, it seems. And then that will be the part 3 of the ZK component implementation. We have also, looks like this is an issue part 1, or no, we looked at this. This is, I think this is the last PR that had been merged in this since the last GA that's related to the SRI. So this is to mock the workgroup storage agent using mock the jest extension. It's pretty similar to the idea of it anyway, is pretty similar to the other one that we looked at. and it's linking to the same PR. So it's just another implementation to kind of solve for the same problem. There are a couple other PRs open still, other than just the part 3 that we looked at. There is did auth doc extending the handler to allow for transaction creation by Ogden, and the Merkle tree CRUD by Keith. This Merkle tree CRUD one, I believe, is just pending re-review. I think all of the suggestions have been addressed, at least for the most part. And then we have here this handler. Looks like it is ready to be merged, barring the conversation here by Shri. So it appears that the open PRs are in a pretty good spot, and the closed ones, have been merged. So the progress is kind of very visible. You can see and track everything very easily, which is all kind of to fit into this open source concept of making sure that everything is very clear for anyone who were to, either jump in the middle of something, or to watch its progress as it's going, or even down the line in the future, to be able to track all of the changes being made, why they're being made, and kind of the considerations as they're being implemented. There are a number of issues still open related to the PRs, the SRI, sorry. So once those PRs, the people working on those PRs are able to get those merged in, more of these will then sort of be taken on and be put in progress. However, there, I don't think is a whole lot left for milestone 4. The team is working on finishing milestone 4 and is also currently beginning some stages of milestone 5, sort of as that naturally progresses through in the different flows of what's being worked on. But I believe that will cover sort of where the SRI is at in its current stage, unless Keith or anybody else here in the work group has anything to add or discuss or cover.
Nope, not from my side. Looks good.
All right. I will pass it back to you, Sonal, then. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So up next is the interop work group update. Andreas, if you could tell us what's going on.
This available to both that,
Yeah,
as
I think
well as,
I have both
public
interop
chain
and
assets.
standards, right? They're
And,
kind of back to back.
So
let me-
yeah,
let
in
me
terms
just
of
take-
what we
take
support
both
with
at the
this
same
It's a little
time.
new
hard to
model,
hear
it is
you.
both, as you can see.
Oh, is this better?
Yes.
Yeah, much better.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I'll take both the interop and the standards at the same time. So the interop group has made great progress. So we, I think, as memory serves well, we have showcased the interop use case of synchronizing banking data between a company and a bank, involving an auditor and a company's customer. We have gone through all the interop requirements and have decided how we're going to meet them. And now we have advanced to the how this is actually going to work. We have established the basically the identification method, what DITs we're going to use, how that's going to work. We have started to work on the data schemas for the messaging between the different BRIs. So so we're making good progress there. We're defining the predicates. So what it means to, work step 1, work step 2, work step 3. How's that expressed? How's that expressed through circuits, the inputs, the outputs? So making progress there. So we hopefully get to the point soon where we have nailed all the data models down, and at that point we can start creating some initial sort of like experiments around having one BRI represented in another through BPI subjects. So that's where we're currently at. Obviously, we're still waiting for funding, but all the groundwork is being laid to be successful and have something showable at the end of the year, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So that's on the interop side. Any questions, comments in the audience?
Nothing from me.
No, I just want to say it's like, kudos to both the BRI1 and BRI3 team. They're it's like Keith, Onion, Joaf, Ryan, great job everyone. Shri. So the on the standard side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 PRs, actually no, 5 now PRs open. We're basically at the stage where we're adding testability statements to the standard, which is critical. So we have that completed for section 2, section 7, but 6 is open as an open PR, which is over 100 requirements. We have section 8 that's around all the thing about external data oracles. So that's open, and then we have started on the whole middle layer interop requirements, and where we have testability statements for section 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3. So more to come. So that's where we're diligently working through that, and that's time consuming. Those testability statements are not trivial, and there are a lot of requirements. So go check it out. It's involved work. But hopefully it will put the standard in a very good place where any implementer has then also an idea how to test their implementations very effectively. And that is it from the standard side. Any questions? No? All right. Back to you, Sonal.
All right. Well, while we have you as well, if you want to give us the TSC roadmap updates, that would be great.
Sure. So you guys already discussed the block. So we have another one coming up in July. We have to get going. But most importantly, we're still raising funds. That's basically the core, the primary focus. The TSC right now is to raise funds for the interop demo and for the roadmap show. For the road show for our 2 BRI implementations. So we are looking for sponsors still, and we are looking into the right platform that we can use to make this most effective. So if you know someone who wants to sponsor, you want to sponsor yourself, please reach out to the TSC. We're more than happy to help and get things started. We're taking any amount, so to speak. It could be fiat or crypto. So we're happy to do that. So please reach out to Sonal, myself, on Slack, and we'll get you going. We have like 10 plus targets on our sponsor list, but no luck yet. So we have one that is willing to match, but not step forward. So if we can raise a certain amount of money, then that organization will match those funds. So sorry, that's my dog. So we're working hard to get there. More updates in July, hopefully positive ones. And that's it. I mean, that's really all that we have to say. TSC is right now raising funds. Thank you.
Awesome. Alrighty, I think that's the end of our formal agenda of updates. Is there anything we missed on anything going on in the baseline world, or shall we shift into the open floor? All right, shifting into the open floor. So feel free to unmute and share what's going on in your worlds, whether it's things you're learning about, working on, pondering, questioning. Feel free to give some updates. Ryan, what's going on with you?
You're muted.
Hey, I'm back. I got myself unmuted. Hey, I had a cool weekend. This past weekend, I was out in Jacksonville, Florida, hanging out with the core tech team at VeChain. Do you know about VeChain? You know, proof of authority, EVM compatible layer 1 blockchain, and very honored to actually receive a grant from VeChain just recently to do some things that are pretty baseline-ish in the VeChain ecosystem, you know, along with BRI1. So the idea to this, and this is kind of follows down the track of what we've been doing lately with Eco, which is a carbon emissions NFT, right? So think about why would a company tokenize their emissions in the first place? Well, there's actually, you know, two particular reasons we're specifying in that. You know, one is, how can you help organizations, you know, verify emissions, even when they're scope 3 emissions, when they're further up or down the value chain and you don't have the complete picture of all the information? And another is cost sharing. So when business ecosystems look to cost share on, you know, emissions reductions or offsets, you know, what is the instrument for that? So the idea to that is that's the carbon emissions NFT that we're seeking to prototype there. Thanks to VeChain for a great event. They gave free tickets to a UFC fight. You know, they're marketing VeChain at UFC and sustainability, right? And you know, it's great to see that this involvement and sustainability from, you know, so many different projects. I'm a big believer. It's a big macro thesis, you know, into how our economies change, our lives change. And, you know, some people look at sustainability net zero as a political thing, but it's really like this, you know, things you need in life: clean air, clean water, clean food. These are things that matter to you as a person and to businesses, you know, to all of us. So it's great to keep building there. Otherwise, you know, another thing going on that we're still very hot on in terms of building in sustainability space, we still have a really amazing partnership with KlimaDAO, who have kind of rebranded to Carbon Mark there as well, but we're holding an event July 6th with Carbon Mark that it walks through the Carbon Mark API. So that uses BR1 in the background, right? So we're bringing users into that whole like technology stack of PRVD, and you know, using that for provide payments, which, you know, gives a user the option to get the benefits of transacting on chain without having to custody crypto. So really exciting stuff there. A lot of interest, customer interest, you know, growing there. Very, very close to release overall. And I think you can see how this is coming together, right? You know, broadcasting, you know, improving the market for offsets, you know, B2B wise, lowering costs there, but at the same time introducing these things, you know, around zero knowledge and emissions and improving the outcomes there. So lots of exciting things going on with Provide and Eco, especially at this time. and new partnerships all over the place. Tons of things going on in the background. I can't share yet all of them, but lots of cool things.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing with us what you can.
Mhm.
Jack Gilchrist, what's going on with you? If you are around at the moment.
Hi. So yeah, I've been wrapping up integration with like Halo 2, compiling Noir into Halo 2, kind of killing some time waiting for recursion to get built into Noir, but that's right around the corner. So gonna be picking back up with ZK channels pretty soon. And that'll definitely be something where we can hit the ground running, because it'll be a lot easier than architecting that in Halo 2, especially where it's still very like each circuit is kind of application specific. So in order to kind of scale that out, writing stuff in Halo 2 is pretty preventative. Yeah, looking forward to that. Obviously that's something that we've had a lot of ideas on how to kind of do like almost like roll-ups for specific parts of like a baseline interaction. So looking forward to coming back and finally testing that out in the next few months. And then also I wanted to ask is they're going to be, I might have talked about this offline, but is anyone going to be at ECC in the next few weeks? Well, if there is anyone listening who is interested in talking about baseline, I will be there. Happy to meet up there. So yeah, looking forward to that as well.
Awesome. Alrighty. Thanks for sharing. Is there anything else that anyone wants to cover while we're here?
I think we can give a shout out to Martin Valenta, right? If
Mhm.
you're in, I believe he messaged in general and also in core devs. So not to reveal too much, because I haven't really gotten the okay from Martin, but as you can see from his messages in the group, that he's working on his own personal baseline reference implementation that's done in Golang with Gnark, and I believe he will be joining us this Thursday at our BRI stand-up. Not necessarily to join the group in development, that's yet to be seen, but just to discuss some of the roadblocks he's run into in going through the docs. So of course, we welcome anybody to join that conversation. We'll probably hold it right after we're done with stand up. Anybody is welcome from any reference implementation or from a spectator side to come and join in the conversation to see what what Martin ran into, what he understood, and what was more difficult to comprehend and even so implement. Yeah. So just wanted to give a shout out to him. Tackling baseline alone is difficult, to say the least.
It is, and this is like I'm gonna plug BRI1 because BRI1's written in Golang, right? So that's if you're looking to do baseline and you're writing it, the core services in Golang, that's been open sourced and done there. So and of course there's a great user experience around that with Shuttle. So, but certainly open to see, what's going on under the hood, because there's always new, different, better ways to do anything. Right? Everything can be optimized a little bit further. So it's really cool to see someone, out there, looking to tackle that.
Yeah, what's the easiest way to access some of that? Those docs or open source. Actually, look at the code, right?
Yeah,
so that somebody who's
yeah.
learning can see two different aspects.
Great question. So if you go to docs.provide.services, and I'll put it in our Zoom chat here, but I can also, share my screen here as well of where you can find all this today, right? So let me share my screen, if I could share it very, very quickly. All right, docs.provide.services, right? So on this web page, you can find all the information about our APIs here. Recently, we renamed our baseline service Axiom, right? So this will describe, a ton of information in depth in terms of, what's going on in terms of the configuration. Now, as well, if you're looking for the open source code, if we go to github.com and go to provide platform, right? If he's thinking about writing it in Golang, this is where you'd find the Axiom API middleware all here. And you can see, many different changes through the years that are done and committed here in terms of, how it's meant to conform to the baseline protocol instances. What I would also encourage folks with is like, just because you want to implement baseline doesn't mean you have to know all of the internals of it. Again, with Shuttle, it's very easy to set up an account with your email address, and we have many different examples in Postman, right? So here's one I did recently regarding proving emissions, right? So if I look at let's look at this guy here, right? If I send this protocol, okay, I got to authenticate here. So this is what baseline should be for so many people, right? Is just send in, oh, there's a little authorization area. Let's actually fix that. Save that, let's go. There you go. So that's how simple baseline should be for so many developers, right? Is you have, any kind of payload of data, what kind of work group, what kind of type of data, and see back your ZK proof that comes from that. So that's just as an end user. But again, in terms of understanding the internals of it, definitely check out the Provide platform GitHub to learn about, the things that have been built by so many different contributors, through the years there. And of course, the other components are all here as well. So like ident. So there's, BRI1 is essentially, 5 pieces, right? Axiom for the baseline piece, ident, and chain for the actual smart contract middleware, vault for key management. Privacy is where we see NARC integrated there as well. So, privacy and is kind of a subcomponent of Axiom there as well. So lots of cool stuff. Definitely check it out. If you have questions, feel free to always ping me, Kyle as well. But feel free to ask questions and poke around, see what's there, ask the community, because there's been, like I said, tons of work on this done over the years.
Yeah, nice. And as we'll see sooner or later in the year, as we work towards an interop session between, I believe it's going to be the Golang implementation, and then on our side we have a TypeScript implementation. So to even more kind of test the waters of, can we have 2 kind of isolated implementations, totally different infrastructure, high level language, can we get them to kind of connect? So we'll see what happens with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think always taking that API driven approach, it helps a lot with that interop piece of it. Another thing about in terms of like ready to use SDKs, we have a TypeScript based SDK around BRI1, but again, it's the same idea. What's actually cool is like, hey, if you implement the standard in a certain way and you like follow naming conventions, actually a lot of the APIs should be pretty similarly laid out and almost should be interchangeable, right, between BRI and BRI3 in terms of just point to a different API collection, right, overall. So cool stuff. thank you for let me share more about that. I hope our viewers enjoy it. So
Well, I wouldn't say let you. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, actually, I think we should get Martin on if we can on a future show, if it's a General Assembly or not, and
Yeah.
he can explain what he's gone through, and we can kind of give real-time advice, based on the issues that he's run into.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think that would be nice, especially as we get newcomers in who want to implement or join a dev team. We've always struggled with having that kind of ramp up documentation. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's always challenging because like every developer's different, right? Especially when we're trying to be in this intersection of like blockchain and enterprise things, because it's very rare to find people who are camped in both, right? So think about, but generally like a few things always stand out, right? Most people have a background in JavaScript, right? They can always read and write that, and like that's really what I enjoyed. But seeing about BRI3 is like this implementation TypeScript, very simple to understand what's going on in the internals there. But otherwise, some people have more specialization in other language or have preferences to see certain things in the production execution environment. So, but yeah,
Yeah, and on top of that, the Gnark library, same thing, right? If you go for a Golang implementation, Gnark's really nice because you don't have to deal with all those domain-specific languages and trying to write ZK circuits. So it's kind of less of an on-ramp that you can write the circuit essentially in Golang with like their front-end API. So one of the things that I talked about with Martin, he kind of struggled in connecting the documentation with how do you work in the kind of the application specific information between, let's say, the two parties. If we're talking about, he's talking about a purchase order. He felt like it wasn't exactly clear on how to integrate that into, which layer within the BPI or even within like a connector to the BPI. And I think it's something that we should address like in the show whenever he comes on is, what would be kind of the spin up of the two or more companies and establishing, the MSA and codifying that and so on and so forth.
Yeah, there's two parts of this. There's a technical like setup, and then there's the actual orientation of what is the business process? What's the kind of data involved there, right? So assuming like just the technicals are in, right, which means like, hey, you onboard some credentials between systems, you have the work group set up. Now the pseudo technical business thing is definition of this workflow, right? So that's a agreed upon schema for this for different steps of the workflow, and then simply marshaling that data into that structure into the BRIs to trigger the creation of ZK proofs, trigger the workflow, right? But it's a lot of steps to get through, right? It's and it takes a lot of flexibility to say like, I'm going to take any kind of data type, right?
Yeah, to generify that data.
You have to you're making it very generic, right? Because even at companies like, let's say like different SAP customers, right? There's a core structure of the purchase order, but then there's different industry specific extensions to certain things, right? That sometimes come in, which kind of make the compatibility of certain data more difficult overall. Still the same core idea, but like how do you reconcile these like small even schema differences between partners?
Yeah, and not to sorry, to waste more time. I know it's GA but we are on open floor. So in the next show, you should come in and discuss how does BRI1 tackle generifying that process, right? That overall, that's probably the most difficult technical aspect, right? Is taking all these concepts and generifying them.
It is like, cause this, something we did very early on when I was, working more directly with integrating to BRO and myself, was we were looking at IDOCs, right? Which were these like huge multi-structured like payloads, like not simple payloads, but huge ones, right? How does the stack absorb such a large, structure, right? Recognize it, right? And then ingest it, right, through the protocol, right, into a good protocol message, and still produce a ZK proof out of it, right?
Right, yeah, translate that all the way down even to the proof. Yeah, that's difficult.
And even in certain, when you think about cardinality, sometimes it's different instances of like a purchase order data doesn't have everything mapped, so it could change up from time to time in terms of like what data elements are actually required or optional to send, right? Because that can change from one transaction to another, right? Um, so definitely cool thing to deep dive into. Always happy to get another show out there. We should just do another show about shuttle and provide, and another time if we can arrange it. So would be glad to do that anytime.
Yeah, it would be nice. BR3 is not as advanced, but at least it's to the point where we could contrast and compare and see, like, what are the pros and cons of the certain approaches and paths kind of untraveled in the path that you have chosen, right? But yeah,
There's
so
I'm definitely open for feedback too, because like it's like this. We all collectively all want to learn and share, like, how do we make the user experience, developer experience, business user experience better around this, right? Because I think that's what actually connects it to folks the most, when they like see it work in a business process, they see it work relative to their role, they're like, oh, I can go implement that, right? Otherwise folks feel like they have to like build it up from the inside out, and they don't have to. Like this is why we're here, is like, this is why we're building this open source project, is just to help people along.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that conversation. And we
Mhm.
should definitely invite Martin on the next one. Keith, when he joins the call tomorrow, maybe we could see if he wants to hop on next week, Wednesday. We don't have a guest lined up. We do have one the following week, but it'll be low pressure. It'd be nice to hear more about his general journey, learning more about baseline, what was super confusing, and things like that, because he seems to have figured it out, which hopefully means that we do have enough content packaged together. But I'm sure it was a uphill battle of some sort. So that feedback would be great. And to also learn what he's doing. And like you said, doing like a live session to talk him through these things. Because if there's someone like him out there who was able to get this far and, still has interest and sees the value, which we all, of course, do, then there may be others out there too. So we should do it live. Let me know if he's willing to join a future show, preferably next week. And otherwise, we'll get him on in another session. Alrighty. So anything else before we wrap up?
does it have to be baseline?
No, it does not.
There was one thing I thought was cool I would mention, is that there's this game called, what is it called? I'm blanking on the name of, something about like up, where you're jumping up and up and up in the game.
Only
Up only.
Only
Only
up,
up.
only up, only up.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it is that it displays an NFT collection, right? What are they called? The goblin culture, something like that. And they don't sell them though. It's only just displays it in game supposedly. But I guess the NFTs have risen by something like 51% in terms of their value just by being displayed in game. So anyways, I thought I'd just mention that, kind of a cool thing that I haven't seen before.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's like artwork all over the like landscape that you're going through. So you're saying it's like just displayed in the background and just it being
Right.
shown. Yeah.
So in a lot of the Web3 games we see, or really any Web3 applications, it's kind of direct interaction with tokens and NFTs. In this case, it's more of like an indirect link that led to a huge hike in value of these tokens, you know? So that's all.
Interesting.
Very cool. I didn't know that about that game at all. That's
Yeah, me
and
neither.
and it's almost like this. What's the actual boundary for the game publisher to advertise things, right? Because typically game publishers only let ads happen of things that they can monetize, right? This is very different actually, because it's outside the conventional ecosystem of monetization. It's not even direct monetization in the game at all, right? It's just artwork, right? So very cool.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, traditionally, I'm sure that, you know, some other game would go out and acquire some kind of like IP from some larger companies to use in game recognizable. But yeah, I'm not sure if there was even a deal.
Yeah, what's the licensing of that look like? Can you display
You don't-
NFTs you don't like own or request licensing for? Can you just, because it's technically like out in the public, right? But
it's really probably just up
Yeah.
to the publisher, really. I think if it's a storefront like Steam or something else like that, like they might get a little concerned about the monetization features in the game, right? But I think there's still openness around this idea of tokenizing like game assets, right? Because it's
Right.
like you can buy and sell things, you know, directly to other players, or even take the loot from a single game and, you know, recompose it into a different game, right? That's an intriguing idea that with NFTs that are there is like how you could have like this shared state of game data across, you know, different titles, right? Indefinitely, right? So interesting idea. Would love to see a gaming baseline implementation.
Yeah, it is Goblin Town, though. I will correct myself. Goblin Town, not
Goblin
Goblin
Town?
Culture.
of course.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see if there are any game matches with a baseline protocol, if there's some state channel-y kind of possibly Apian type of thing where some part of the game is taken off chain to make it more smooth. But
Because it's like this, right? They're, you know, the CIA and like other intelligence agencies, they want to snoop on gaming activity because that's actually where there's a lot of, you know, there are criminal activities like that take place in Discord, and those are the places they look out for. So they would be concerned about like money laundering and those types of things. So how do you prove it's compliant? That's just you playing a game, right? Without, you know, having to give up your identity every single time, right? While that's going on. So keep it safe, keep it fun, right? All those good things.
All right. Anything else not baseliney as well? All right. If not, that will be the end of our June General Assembly. Thank you so much for the great conversations in our live studio here. And thanks to those watching. Feel free to comment with questions in chat, and we'll get back to you in the future. And see you all next week on the Baseline Show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.